Here are some of the best variety coins that sold at the January Fun Heritage Signature Auction. We'll kick off the presentation with a Lincoln Penny variety, a lovely red example of the 1970 large date S double die obverse memorial cent coin. The doubling on this piece is clearly and most noticeably on the letters of Liberty, where unmistakable doubling to the south of the letters can be seen. The example here, despite suffering some clear contact marks, especially on the obverse, still managed the grade of MS64 red from PCGS, which saw a closing price at auction of $3,240. The 1853 over 53 repunch date Liberty seated quarter dollar coin is a prime example of why continuous study and further research is so important in the field of numismatics, as this variety was once mistakenly believed to be a 53 over 2 overdate instead, which clearly and has since been proven not to be the case. This example of this rare coin has been graded by PCGS as VF25, and at auction it changed hands for the sum of $4,680. And of course, we can hardly call this complete without even mentioning the 1955 double die obverse wheat cent, arguably one of the most famous variety coins available. It first made its way into the Red Book as early as 1960 after being discovered by collectors in the year of its release. The bold doubling on the date alone has become synonymous with collecting variety coins. This coin was graded by PCGS as MS64 brown and at auction managed to raise $5,760. The first of two similar varieties from the same date, and an indication of the pressure the mint was under in the face of tremendous demand for fractional currency in circulation at that time, is the 1918 over 7 Standing Liberty quarter dollar coin, a very well-known and desirable Red Book listed variety coin that, in this instance, was graded as PCGS AU50. At its turn on the auction block, it sold for $8,400. The 1834 O over F capped bust quarter eagle coin is an interesting and surprisingly rare variety, although the present example is perhaps not the best representative of the type. Clearly a later die state example that most closely matches the Tompkins die state 4 and 5. I suspect that the reverse die especially must have been lapped, as several details are lacking, especially the leaves below the eagle's talon. In addition, the dot after the C of 25 cents being missing, which is expected for this variety. Easily explained though by the presence of clash marks on the obverse of the coin, in addition to the customary circular or arc-shaped die crack on the lower third of the coin, authenticated by PCGS with a grade of MS66 to close at auction for $30,000. The Seated Liberty Quarter series is a surprisingly fertile hunting ground for variety collectors, a brilliant example of the misplaced date variety type that can be found on the 1850 quarter coin. The current coin, not only the finest known variety, but the finest known Seated Liberty quarter in the census report period, is also an excellent representation of this, with the base of the number 1 clearly seen far below its intended position, on the rim of the coin and extending across to the denticles as well, graded by PCGS as MS67, making it a full 2 grade points finer than the Eliasberg example. It sold at auction for $31,200. The Buffalo nickel has a number of spectacular varieties to offer, especially during the first few years of production. Few coins managed to exemplify this trend better than the 1918 over 7D Buffalo coin though, with a clear and bold overdate. Similar to other examples on this list, it is the result of Clause 2 or Design Hub double die, probably from a leftover die from the previous year, although it is impossible to say for sure. This coin is difficult to obtain in most grades, but in mint state it is genuinely rare. This example was graded by PCGS, still in an old school green label, with a grade of MS63 and sold at auction for $36,000. A rare example of a major variety on a 20th century gold coin appears now, with the 1909 over 8 St. Gordon's Double Eagle being the only overdate coin known for the series as a whole. It is then hardly surprising that this is a Red Book listed variety as well. The fact that the variety took more than a year to be identified is therefore somewhat baffling when considered how easy it is to spot the underlying number 8, which is connecting the tail of the last number 9 towards the upper loop of the same number. The example here was graded as PCGS MS65 Plus and sold at auction for $57,600. The top variety coin from this auction, however, without any doubt, is the 1942 over 1 Mercury Dime overdate variety, a classic variety and Red Book listed variety for the series. The coin is not a classic overdate in the sense that you might think though, but rather is technically a double die obverse or a hubbing overdate. Might be another way to describe it more accurately. You see, by the 1940s, the date was no longer being stamped into the working dies by hand, but was rather being engraved into the master hub for that given year. And so, in late 1941, when the working dies for the next minting year, which would be 1942, were beginning to be made, one set of dies was first impressed with a 1941 dated hub and then with a 1942 dated hub on top of that, leading to the accidental creation of this famous overdate. As the sole finest example known of the type, it is graded as PCGS MS67 Plus and sold at auction for $90,000. Subscribe to WNN and consider watching a video about some interesting variety coins next. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.